Welcome to on Relax, Reset, Rejuvenate, where we will be having an invigorating and enlightening session on holistic health. I'm Dipali Bhasin, a member of the Forum of Breast Cancer Protection and the MC of today's event. Can I request everyone to mute themselves, please? And Vanita Kapoor is the senior radiologist at Colonel Pants Imaging Center and at Fortis Law Firm. She's also the president of the Rotary Club of Delhi South. I request Dr. Vanita for the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the whole world has turned upside down, but it has taught us to rethink, to rewind, to relax, reset, and rejuvenate. Gurus and teachers, be it Lord Krishna, Muhammad the Prophet, Guru Nanak, Jesus Christ, Gautam Buddha, Mahavir, and others who have preached, have all said one thing: you need to stop and think. Indian mythology is rife with examples of saints who could suspend their breath, who ate the right food, kandmul, those who meditated and levitated, and those who could literally reverse their age. Today, as we begin this meet, my thoughts go back to the turn of the century. Two pioneers in their field, Dr. Colonel C.S. Pant, better known as the father of breast imaging in the country, who's currently logging in from the hills, and the eminent chief breast oncosurgeon, Dr. Ramesh Sareen, of Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals, had a vision which evolved into an NGO to spread awareness about breast cancer. They, along with cancer survivors, caregivers, oncologists, social workers, set up the Forum for Breast Protection. They put both their heads and their resources together to teach people to be aware and to fight cancer. And to fight cancer, the first thing we need is a positive attitude. Please put your hands together for a great spiritual leader, a motivator, a brilliant orator, and above all, a wonderful human being, none other than Brahm Kumari, Sister Shivani. The man of the moment who has inspired countless people to change their lives through diet and food, Luke Coutinho, is here with us today. And we will have an expert panel who will be giving him or asking him a whole lots of questions. We have with us the CEO of the Apollo Hospital, Delhi, Mr. Shiv Kumar. Welcome, sir. Apollo has always been supportive with us in our innumerable efforts. Our great singers, doctors, people with a heart, dear friends, and Rotarians like me, the Director Medical Services, Dr. N. Subramaniam, and his gracious wife, Senior Consultant Anesthesiologist, Dr. Lalita, will be presenting the invocation. We are proud to welcome today the CEO, Abhishek Singh, also better known as the Arogya Setu app man from the IT Ministry of the Government of India. I extend my welcome on behalf of the forum to each and every one of you to be present. And above all, my special welcome to the stars of our show, our breast cancer warriors, their spouses, and the caregivers, without whom the event would be incomplete. Thanks. Over to you, Dipali.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vanita. Moving on, Doctors Narasimhan and Lalita Subramanian are a husband-wife duo who are known for the humility and down-to-earth attitude. They have never been able to say no to a humble request, as Dr. Sareen just mentioned a minute ago. I take this opportunity to request both the doctors to sing the invocation song.
Thank you for your very meaningful effort. We present a Sanskrit hymn Maitri Bhajata, sung originally by Bharat Ratna M.S. Subbulakshmi over 50 years ago, it still remains relevant to world peace today. It symbolizes service with humility, with a focus on world peace and brotherhood. It highlights the benefits of restraint, the need to renounce war, emphasizes the value of compassion and the joy of giving. May peace and prosperity embrace the universe. Now Lalita will present this number.
Maitri bhajata akhila hrijatri. Maitri bhajata akhila hrijatri. Maitri bhajata akhila hrijatri. Atmavadev Paranabi Pashyata. Atmavadev Paranapi Pashyata. Yuddham Tyajata Spardham Tyajata. Yuddham Tyajata Spardham Tyajata. Tyajata Paresha Kramamakramanam. Tyajata Paresha Kramamakramanam.
Integrative medicine. Luke's approach towards prevention and healing revolves around four important pillars: balanced nutrition, adequate exercise, quality sleep, and emotional detox. Luke's programs work across preventive medicine as well as cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular, and autoimmune diseases. He is an author of 3 popular bestsellers and has founded Reset, Holistic Living Concepts, a one-of-a-kind facility for individuals who are voyaging towards holistic well-being. And now everyone, over to Luke and our panel of doctors.
Thank you.
To Luke is that, Luke, you have been handling cancer patients, and especially breast cancer patients for the longest number of years. I want to ask you the first question. Do you find anything common among these breast cancer patients? Is there a commonalities between these cancer patients so that we can say, look, this could be the cause of cancer, and that if we don't do this, we can prevent to some extent the cancer coming back? We know we can't prevent it 100%, but at least we can have some reduction in the cancer occurrence or starting first time, and also that it should not come back after the treatment. You know, when we give the treatment, we always tell them nobody is 100% sure that you won't get it. We tell them 9%, 10%, 20%, 30%, but that 20 and 30% doesn't mean anything to that one person. So could you please tell us what are the commonalities that you find in patients who have breast cancer or cancer in general? Luke Coutinho, please.
Right. Thank you, doctor. And I would like to start off by thanking you for this amazing platform and this very holistic approach towards cancer. So let me start with this. There is no magic diet. There is no magic food. There is no magic superfood. There is no magic exercise. None of these magic pills exist when it comes to the prevention of cancer or the healing of cancer. So as I was saying, there is no magic diet. There is no magic exercise program. There is no magic drug. There is no magic chemo. There is no magic radiation cycle that can help us prevent or heal cancer. What I've seen over the last couple of years is that cancer is a multifactorial inflammatory condition. When I say multifactorial, that means many reasons can cause a cancer, and many reasons can prevent a cancer from going into a remission. I want everyone to reflect on this today, because let me tell you up front, diet is important for cancer, but there's something way beyond just diet. And we're going to talk about those verticals today. We're going to talk about the importance of your exercise, your sleep, your emotional wellness. You know, so I'm going to start off with multifactorial. That means many reasons contribute towards the cause of a cancer Or let me give you a simple example. You have 100 ER positive breast cancer patients, okay, at the same stage, getting the same cycles of chemo, the same cycles of radiation, the same prescription for tamoxifen or whatever it is. But you would possibly get 100 different outcomes. Out of these 100 patients with the same cancer getting the same treatment, some of them will go through severe side effects, some may not. Some of them will survive, some may not. Some of them have adverse side effects, some may not. What does this tell us? This tells us that when the disease is the same and the treatment is the same, what we must never forget is that the patient is unique, is a unique individual with a whole system of intelligence within and around that also contributes to the healing or the recovery or the prevention of the disease. So when I say it's multifactorial, today people, they presume, oh, lung cancer is caused by pollution, pesticides in food causes cancer, unhygienic water causes cancer. We presume with these things, but never forget, they could be a possible contribution towards a disease. But we should never forget, all of us breathe the same air, all of us almost eat the same food, and all of us drink the same water. Then all of us should have cancer. So there's something beyond the sphere of looking at disease that we must now incorporate into our lives. And that is called our lifestyle. Let me give you a simple example. There's a man who has a fish bowl with 6 goldfish in. Okay, and every month these fish start dying. So he goes to the person who sells him fish and he says, give him this particular food, this particular pellet. The man feeds them, but the fish dies. So every month he keeps on buying 6 new goldfish until one day someone tells him, why don't you change the water in the fish bowl? Because your fish are dying all the time. The problem doesn't always have to be with the fish, but it could be with the surrounding where the fish is living. And that's exactly what we have to look at today. We have to look at the entire environment. There are several things that can cause cancer. Now, the commonalities that I've seen over the last couple of years, and when I say these commonalities, it doesn't mean if you have it right now, you're going to get cancer. But these are commonalities that we see in every patient. And how do we know it? Because we spend a lot of time with every patient. And the first question I ask every patient is, what was going on in your life 6 months to a year to 2 years before you got diagnosed with your cancer? I want to know your emotions. I want to know your food, your sleep habits, everything. The commonalities that we see is chronic constipation. We see chronic acidity. We see chronic gut issues. We also see a lack of exercise, a very sedentary lifestyle. A very strong commonality that comes out is sleep deprivation. The 5th point that we see is emotional distress. Now, don't get me wrong. All of us have stress in our life. A little bit of stress here and there is good for us. That's called acute stress. We have a problem, we solve it, we get back to our life. I'm talking about the deeply rooted emotional stress, things like the inability to forgive, ugly divorces, the loss of a child, the family fights, property issues, things that the emotional stress is something you wake up with and you go to sleep every day. These are 5 commonalities that we see. And of course, there's a little bit of science behind all of these. Let's go back to acidity. Today, science has proved that cancer cells thrive in an acidic body. But does that mean we should go highly alkaline? Absolutely. Absolutely not. Doctor's going to ask me a question separately on that. Constipation. It comes down to common sense. Constipation means we are keeping waste in our body for a longer time. What happens when you keep waste in your body for a longer time? It becomes toxic. It starts, penetrating into your gut. Toxins, which are supposed to exit your system, enter your blood, creating imbalances in your estrogen and your hormones and a whole lot of other inflammatory conditions. Let's never forget that cancer is an inflammatory disease caused by inflammation due to several things. So we have acidity, constipation, sleep deprivation. Today's science, Dr. Matt Walker, who's written a bestseller, PhD in sleep, has made one statement in his book, a book that everyone should read, Why We Should Sleep. Okay, and his experiments in science are done on human beings, not on rats and not on mice. He has one statement, which is chilling, but it's motivating for us to understand how we can heal and look at prevention. He writes that 2 to 3 nights of sleep deprivation can decrease our immune system, our NK cells. Those are your natural killer cells, which is what protects us from cancer. It decreases it by 60 to 70%. So your sleep deprivation disables your immune system by 60 to 70%. Today, medicine and science has established the fact that cancer can only happen in a body where there is a breakdown of the immune system. you know, where there is a breakdown in your genetic coding, which is related to your immunity. So we look at sleep, which we will touch upon. Then I want to come to emotional wellness. By far, I know everyone's expecting me to talk about nutrition and diet today, and I will. But let me not fool you and tell you it is the main thing. If I have to categorize everything, it first starts with your emotional wellness. Think about this. When we are not emotionally well, when we're stressed, when we're emotional, we choose the wrong foods to eat. So you can have the best diet and know the best diet to follow. But if you're emotionally stressed, will you choose it? No, you won't. We'll choose the wrong foods. When we're emotionally stressed, can we sleep well at night? No, we can't, because our mind is constantly working. So our sleep gets affected. When we're emotionally stressed, we choose not to work out because we don't feel motivated to work out, so we get sedentary. So if you see, it actually starts with emotional wellness. Now, science has well established emotional distress and lower immunity. The more emotionally distressed you are, the lower your immune system. So you can have the best food, the best exercise, the best chemo, the best radiation, but if your immune system is suppressed, it is very difficult for us to come to recovery or prevent, you know, reoccurrences. We need a strong immune system. The second thing with emotional wellness, which is very well established. Okay, today we're talking about breast cancer, so I'm going to focus on breast cancer. Let's take an ER positive, which is a cancer that is driven by estrogen dominance. When you are heavily stressed, what happens in a woman's body? The moment a woman gets stressed, your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, and your adrenaline. And I'm explaining this because I want everyone to understand this. There's one thing about treating a disease, but when you understand how your body contributes towards the progression or the recovery, then you start making decisions which can impact you. So when a woman or a man gets stressed, we produce cortisol and adrenaline. The moment cortisol and adrenaline goes up, progesterone falls down. When progesterone falls down, estrogen goes up. This is all beautiful. It's a beautiful mechanism to protect us. But now the problem is, what if you're chronically stressed, which means your mother hormone pregnenolone depletes, and we live with excess estrogen. Excess estrogen in our body, which means lower testosterone, which means loss of muscle mass and increase in body fat, especially around the belly area. What does this drive? Endometriosis or endometrial cancers, ovarian cysts and fibroids, or an ovarian cancer, fibroids in the breast, or cancers in the breast. You know, so we have to understand the importance of stress. And I know everyone has stress, but that's why we have Sister Shivani here, who's going to teach us how to overcome it and enable the healer within. Another commonality that I've noticed with patients is their mindset. Like I said, you can have the best doctors, which you do. You can have the best nutrition, exercise, food, everything. But your mindset, you have to believe that you can get better. You have to believe that your body has the ability to heal you. Your body, you may have faith in your doctors, faith in your nutritionist, that's good. But I always tell my patients, have faith in your body, because it is your body that is going to heal you. Doctors can enable the healing. Nutritionists can enable your diet. But it is only...
Mute করতে চাচ্ছি mute এটা mute করনি
Can't hear you.
Luke can't hear you.
I request Luke to unmute himself, please.
I request the admin to please not put me on mute. Where did I stop off, please? Because I've already spoken a lot of stuff. Can you tell me where I stopped off? And admin, please do not mute me. Can someone please tell me where I spoke last? Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So the body has the ability to heal. We should never, never forget that. Yes, we want to put our faith in medicine, our faith in nutrition, but please, the faith has to be in your own intelligence. Remind yourself, the infinite intelligence that built this intelligent human body, that same infinite intelligence has the ability to heal us.
Yes,
if we allow it.
Yourself.
If we allow it to heal us. Now, what comes in the beginning of that, in between that healing? It's very simple. Everyone thinks all of this is airy, fairy, and only spiritual. Every doctor out there and every one of us knows that we have something called the autonomic nervous system. What is the autonomic nervous system in all of us? It controls our heart rate, our breathing, our immune system, our digestion, our sleep cycles, our pulse rate. This is an autonomic nervous system that works every second of the day while we're awake and while we sleep. It's working on autopilot. Now, when worry, stress, anger, unforgiveness, bitterness, hatred, when stress in general comes in our lives, the autonomic nervous system cannot do its job the right way, which means right at that point of emotional sickness or emotional distress, we are preventing our own body's natural system that is designed to keep us alive every second of the day and night to be compromised. And that is why emotional distress and emotional wellness is at the top of the circle. I ask everyone to have a belief and faith that we can get better. A patient who doesn't believe that they cannot get better can have the best treatment in the world, but because their mind has decided that it is over. And cancer is a disease that is pushed with fear psychosis. What is fear psychosis? Every patient Googles and sees, oh, 3rd stage, 4th stage. That's not a death sentence. It is not a death sentence. It just means that there are limited medications that can treat you. But today we have survivors who are 4th stage and living 15 years after their cancers. Okay, that is hope for us. Now, there is also false hope where someone tries to sell you something and says, oh, take this, your cancer will go. Take this pill, fly to Mexico, do this, do that. Let me tell you, nothing like that exists. To heal, to recover, to prevent a reoccurrence, we need a multifactorial approach because it is a multifactorial disease. We have to look at emotional wellness. We have to look at sleep. Let's quickly, briefly touch about sleep. I spoke about your immunity. While you sleep, your hormones balance. All the young girls out there today getting PCOD, early puberty, all of these conditions, all right, look at their sleep cycles, very, very low. Correct their sleep cycles, the hormones balance. So a lot of healing is happening while you sleep. These are mechanisms built into us by the divine. And human beings are the only species that challenge these natural fundamentals of the human body. So I want to use the best chemo. I want to use the best radiation. I want to use the best nutrition, but I also want to use my body's healing ability. And the most powerful one is sleep. We can only heal in a state of complete rest. If you fall or your kid falls and gets a bruise, do you see the scab growing during the day? No, he sleeps or she sleeps. And when she wakes up, she sees the scab growing, signifying that repair, cleaning, rejuvenation, all of that happens in a state of complete rest, which is why sleep is so important. Let's slide down straight into exercise. Sedentary lifestyles are causing sickness and disease. Science is showing us that 60% of the cancers today are caused by poor lifestyle. When you are sedentary, what is out of whack in your body? Your hormones. Your hormones. You start putting on belly fat. A lot of the belly fat centrally collected in a woman's body and in a man's body as well is excess estrogen. That estrogen is stored in your body. Estrogen is not meant to be stored in the body because it becomes a feeding factor for fibroids, cysts, cancers, and all of that stuff. So we have to be so careful. We want to exercise. I don't need you to do fancy things. Don't go and take a fancy gym membership. You don't have to spend money to exercise. You can walk, you can dance, you can do yoga, you can do pranayama, but move that body. Our body is not meant to be sedentary. Let me explain something about breast cancer and the lymphatic system. A lot of survivors and people going through cancer will also know that your lymph nodes were affected. Your lymph nodes means your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is the body's garbage disposal system. If it is not working, you store toxins in your lymph nodes that can become cancerous. Now, what helps you to move the lymphatic system? One thing, exercise. Every time you walk, you stimulate your lymphatic system. Every time you're sedentary, your lymphatic system slows down. So you see the importance of exercise. Now let me finally come down to diet and nutrition.
Luke,
Yes,
we have other people to ask you questions. So let me give them time. Let me give them the opportunity to ask you questions. There are 4 moderating the session. Can we ask Bhavna Sirohi to ask the next question? And then you can take it forward from wherever you left. Bhavna?
Dr. Bhavna Sirohi is a senior medical oncologist at Max and has worked in the UK for many years. And she'll be taking the question.
Hi, Luke. I really enjoyed your session. I think the holistic approach, what you are saying, is very important. So given your vast experience with breast cancer patients that you have seen, what mistakes do you think the patients make in the diet? What are the common mistakes? Because we have a lot of patients here. So we just want to know what are the mistakes that you have encountered that most patients are making and which we can correct or they can correct.
Number 1 is white sugar. Patients with cancer have to stop white sugar, no matter what anyone says. If you want the science about it, I can take 5 minutes to explain that, but I'll move on to the next mistake. Number 2, Patients who have gone through chemotherapy, their gut doesn't work the right way, which is why they go through a side effect of diarrhea or constipation. It could be either or. So we have to understand that, like I said, diet is not important alone. It is not about what you eat. It is about how your body breaks down and absorbs what you eat. There are several cancer patients who have the best diets, but they're still malnourished because we just can't focus on pushing more protein. It is important. Pushing more fruits and vegetables, you need to first work with the microbiome, the gut, so it can assimilate and absorb nutrition. So when they have diarrhea, we know that they're flushing out a lot of energy and nutrients. We need to put that back in by stopping the constipation. At the same time, if they're constipated, we need to heal the constipation because that's creating more inflammation and acidity in a body that's acidic. So the first thing is sugar. We have to cut down on sugar. Yes, you can have a cup of tea, you can have a cup of coffee, but we cannot overdo it. We cannot make the body more acidic. And like I said, it's not just about your diet. It's not just about eating. Your liver is important and your kidney. So if you don't look after your liver and look at foods that can boost your liver health, foods that can boost your liver health and your kidney health, your main nutrition is useless. So I just want to add another point because everyone is just chasing diet and that's what we need to change. It's not just about your diet. We need to understand, and this sentence will motivate everyone else to do it the right way. Everything that a human body eats, every food is becoming your bone, your flesh, your tissue, your muscle, every part of your cell. So you are either feeding your body the right food or the wrong food. Another mistake they make, they take so much of protein at one time. Yes, protein is necessary. We know it. And I want to promote a high protein diet, but there's the right way to do it. You need to space out the protein throughout the day. You can't get a patient to put 20 grams of protein at one meal. I understand the importance, but remember, protein is the building block of cells. Every cell, including your cancer cells. When you are feeding your body, you are feeding even your cancer cells, which is why we have to be so specific about what we eat. Now, we don't need fancy diets. A lot of people get into fancy diets. A lot of people get into raw juicing diets and all of these different therapies. See, I'm not going to judge those therapies, but what has worked for us is the simplest diets. Diets that contain your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, not refined, your legumes, your lentils, balance. Every cell in the human body requires balance. When you're sick with cancer, it is not the time for you to try fad diets. It's not the time for you to try things that people are talking about on the internet. You need to understand that the fundamental of the human body and every one of your trillion cells is balance. And that balance has to come in through your food. People make mistakes with their cooking oils. Like I said, cancer is an inflammatory condition. It's caused by inflammation. Refined oils produce inflammation in us every time we eat it, which is why your oils, you have to change to your oils. I'm not saying olive oil. You can have your coconut oil, your pure ghee, your peanut oil, your mustard oil, whatever is local to your state and your country, but it must not be refined. It has to be cold pressed because refined means more inflammation, means more acids. Another mistake that cancer patients make is forcing themselves to eat if they want to put on weight or starving themselves because they want to lose weight. You will only put the body into more stress. And we linked how stress is interrelated with your cancer. People stay dehydrated during the treatment. They don't eat, drink a lot of water. Water is very important for you. You've gone through chemo, you've gone through radiation. Your liver and your kidney needs a medium of water to help you flush out your toxins. So these are the basics of what we have to do. A lot of people start ordering exotic foods that don't exist in our country. Blueberries and all of these things. Blueberries are great foods for people in the countries that it grows. You should eat seasonal. Every fruit and vegetable that grows at a particular season is designed for our environment outside and inside of our body. So when we look at diet and the mistakes that people make, they think that a diet for cancer is very complicated. But if you ask me, it is the simplest diet. It is the simplest diet, simpler than a weight loss diet, because the only thing you need to stop is white sugar and milk. Again, don't get me wrong. 73% of our milk samples in our country are pumped with hormones, pus cells, antibiotics, and estrogen, because that's what they pump the cows with. So you're trying to fight an estrogen-driven cancer and you're consuming milk that has hormones in. But if you get ethically sourced milk A2 from the Indian cow, the Gir cow, which is existent in our country today, that milk is okay for you. That yogurt is okay for you. So you see, we can never make a blanket statement saying milk is not good for a cancer patient. Protein is not good for a cancer patient. It is the way that you align it into your plan. Our patients right now eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, lentils, and lean protein. Those who are non-vegetarian will choose to eat non-vegetarian. Sometimes we make them completely vegetarian because they have a lot of inflammation in their body. And the vegetarian protein, people eat their vegetarian sources of protein. So I think the complication comes with what is out on the internet. The diet for cancer is the simplest diet, but it has to be well structured. Are your foods boosting your immune system? Are your foods supporting anti-angiogenesis, which is what cancer thrives on, angiogenesis? Is it supporting your gut health? Your immune system starts in your gut. You cannot treat a cancer without treating your gut through simple foods. Are you getting prebiotics from your simple foods like your garlic, your onions? If you don't eat garlic and onions, are you getting it from your pickles? Are you getting your probiotics from your yogurts? There are so many natural foods. Supplements, that's another mistake people make. They jump onto supplements. There are good supplements and bad supplements. You never take supplements while you are doing chemotherapy and radiation, unless your doctor is giving you a B12 or a D3, but all the fancy supplements out there can actually conflict with your treatment. There is a time for that. Once you've finished all your treatment, you may want to use things like turmeric, ginger, sometimes in extract form, triphala, ashwagandha, depending on your medical professional advice. You can't just go pop it because the internet said that. It can help you rebuild your system, but never during your treatment. These are some of the mistakes most of our patients make, and it can be corrected with education and simplicity. The diet for cancer is really simple. It has to come from nature, and we need to create an environment in our body that breaks down the food, absorbs it, and uses it.
Luke, we have a third moderator going to ask you another question. So I'll just request Sangeeta.
Yes,
Dipali, can you introduce Sangeeta, please?
Dr. Sangeeta Taneja is the senior radiologist in Apollo. She also carries a reputation as the best MRI person in the city, and I request her to ask the next question.
thank you, Dipali. Hi, Luke. It has been very interesting to listen to you. So what I understand is that as disease is multifactorial, the healing is also multifactorial. And that's very interesting that we have to make a holistic change in our lifestyle if we want to combat cancer. My simple question to you would be, of course, you've talked a lot about diet, but whenever there is a cancer patient, he or she Googles cancer nutrition or, diets to prevent cancer, the first thing that pops up on the Google window is an alkaline diet. There is something known as an alkaline diet and an acidic diet. Then you've already talked about white sugar. I would also like that you throw some light upon what are the alternatives for white sugar for our listeners, because that would be very important for them. Then dairy you have talked about, but whenever we have cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy, we tell them that because you have to build protein in your body, you've got to have some high protein diet. And if people are vegetarians, the diet narrows down to maybe, cheese, paneer, tofu, things like that. So if you're trying to avoid dairy in our, diet, what is the alternative for a high protein diet if dairy is out, if sugar is out? Then again, the next question is soya. So there have been conflicting reports about soya being a cause of breast cancer. So should it be there or should it not be there in the diet? And of course, also, I would like to you to throw light upon that once the breast cancer patient or any cancer patient for that matter has been treated and is in remission, what lifestyle changes one should make to prevent its reoccurrence?
Okay, thanks, doctor. Let's start off with the alkaline diet. See, I implore to people, do not try to make your bodies alkaline. We have to understand that the human body, there are parts of the human body that have to maintain a pH which is acidic, and some parts which have to be alkaline. So diets that are trying to tell you to be alkaline all the time can actually cause you more harm. And let me explain that. Your skin has to be acidic to protect you from microbes and microorganisms. Your stomach has to be acidic to break down the protein you eat, kill bacteria, kill pathogens. Your bladder also has to be acidic to prevent any infection from coming in. So you can't make your body alkaline, but you have a balanced diet that has both acidic foods and alkaline foods. Some of the best alkaline foods, some of the best acidic foods, in fact, are things like almonds, which we're supposed to eat, all your legumes, all your lentils. So are we going to stop eating that because we need to become alkaline? No. When people have a diet full of junk food, too much of sugar, ultra processed food, they're eating fried food, deep fried, spicy all the time, the body can get over acidic. But other than that, through balance, your body has its own intelligence to maintain the pH system. Most doctors will very, very rarely come across cases of acidosis, which is extreme acidity in the human body. So please, your diet has to have balance. That is why if I'm having vegetable, it's highly alkaline. I'm mixing it with my dal and my rice, which is acidic. It's a perfect balance. But we can't just go on drinking lemon water throughout the day because it's alkaline and we say, oh, acidic, that's going to make us more alkaline. You create more damage. You want to break down your protein in your food. And like I said, a lot of patients eat protein, but they never put on weight because most of the protein isn't getting synthesized or broken down into amino acids, a form that your muscles can absorb. And that's when you put on weight. So the alkaline diet, acidic diet is a myth. And it is something that we should not follow. We need to aim for balance. So when you have enough of water in your day, your body automatically balances everything. When you go through more chemo and radiation, there's a chance that you may get a little bit acidic, which is why you tend to drink more water, stay hydrated, add a little lemon water, have the fruits, which can be either stewed or cooked because you can't do raw. So the balance is the simplest thing. The least concern is someone being over acidic. The second question is about alternatives for sugar. In our country, of course, if you're a diabetic with cancer, jaggery behaves like sugar. So you want to be very minimal in that. But if you're not diabetic, you can enjoy jaggery, which is natural sugar that does not have the effect of refined sugar on cancer cells. We have stevia, we have raw honey. Your raw, pure honey is like a medicine. And today science has studied it in the population of your gut microbe and even energy for patients going through chemotherapy and radiation. So we have honey as a sweetener. We have fruits. You can have a fruit. You can have a date. You can have all of these things as natural sweeteners. Today, all of our patients and people without cancer have switched from sugar in their coffee and tea to jaggery. If they can't have jaggery, they've done coconut sugar. If they can't have coconut sugar, they don't like it, they do stevia. So there are many, many alternatives. But white sugar is something that we don't have. Coming up to the next question about milk. Like I said, I didn't say you can't have milk. It's the right quality of milk. You want to make sure that we're not feeding disease back into the body. If I'm fighting an ER-positive cancer and I'm putting more estrogen through my milk, the patient's not going to heal. So the point is, if you're getting ethical milk, and I think every state in our country today has the availability of A2 milk, Gir cow milk, source it and use it. You can use it during your chemo. You can use it during your radiation. Dr. Bhavna is absolutely right. It's a class A protein and they can have it without a problem. Make sure you're not lactose intolerant, because if you're a cancer patient and you're lactose intolerant and you're having lactose, you're going to have a lot of bloating and more gut problems and constipation and diarrhea. So you want to make sure that you're not lactose. But still, over and above that, even a Jain vegetarian in our country can get sufficient protein through a vegetarian diet. And of course, doctors will add maybe a protein X or a protein shake or two to enhance the protein during the cancer. But look at a Jain vegetarian. Look at what are our sources of vegetarian protein. It's not just nuts, it's not just tofu, it's not just paneer, it's not just dairy, because there are millions of babies who are born that are lactose intolerant. How do they get their protein? Okay, we also get it from legumes, your rajma, your chana, your beans. In our country, we have about 36 varieties of legumes, your lentils, your moong dals, all of your dals, your khichdis. When you combine a white rice with a dal, it becomes a complete protein, very, very healthy and easily absorbed by the human body. So really a 60-kilogram patient can get 60 grams of protein through 4 meals in a day, whether you take lactose or whether you don't take lactose. So it's all about breaking it down. And if you can't meet your requirements, because a lot of cancer patients during treatment, they have nausea and they can't eat, then you move on to a shake, which is given to you by your doctor, preferably one that doesn't have sugar. A lot of shakes in the market today don't have sugar. So take your guidance, and meeting your protein requirement is very, very easy. Let me also add, a lot of people believe that eat sugar to put on weight. Sugar doesn't make you fat. Sugar doesn't make you put on weight. Sugar makes you fat because it creates something called insulin resistance. So you develop a new medical condition to put on weight. That doesn't make sense to us. You can put on weight with your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. Your sugar is unnecessary because it contributes nothing towards healthy weight gain. It's an empty calorie and it drains your mitochondria that is trying to produce energy in a sick patient. It drains the mitochondrial function. And that is why we use better alternatives for sugar. Dr. Bhavna, can you remind me about your fourth question, please?
Yeah, the fourth question, Neeti Lekha Chhabra. Dipali, can you please introduce Neeti Lekha?
Dr. Neeti Lekha Chhabra is a breast survivor and runs her own NGO for breast cancer awareness, and she's going to put forward the last question for the session.
Hi, Om Shanti, Sister Shivani, and a very good morning to you, Luke. Thank you so much for your advice on so many dietary issues that all of us have. My question is, since you mentioned that, so many young girls today have a lot of hormonal issues, PCOD and others. And as we know that breast cancer is related to lifestyle, are there any lifestyle changes that you can suggest for young girls in today's time so that maybe they're able to prevent having breast cancer in the future, or at least able to reduce the chances of having breast cancer?
Absolutely. And they're exactly the 4 pillars I said. I'm going to start again with emotional wellness, because as young girls grow into puberty and teenagers, they have peer pressure, they have stress, they eat wrong because they're stressed out all the time. So it comes down to emotional wellness. I'm not going to touch about how we can improve that because we have Sister Shivani for that. Sleep. It's normal for young girls today to extend their sleep timings with Netflix and social media. I think it's important. During exam times, we'll stay awake late, but I really think Monday to Friday, parents have to maintain the discipline of their children sleeping on time. Whether it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or 1 o'clock, that's okay. But they need to get quality sleep if we're looking at good hormonal health. 3 is exercise. It's sad today to see in our country the amount of young girls with excessive body fat at the age of 12, 13, and 14, which reflects completely on our diet and lifestyle. So exercise is mandatory. Like I said, we don't have to send them to a gym. They can dance, they can play a sport. They have to be active. They cannot be sedentary. And the 4th is their diet. You've got to cut down on junk food. Junk food is wreaking havoc in our country across every single patient. Like I said, everything you feed your body, always remember today, if you're going to have an ice cream after this talk, think, okay, you are feeding health or you are feeding disease. The ice cream is not going to cause you your cancer, but your bad habit of having too much of it is going to cause you a lot of hormonal imbalance that can cause you your disease. Congratulations. They mentioned that you are a survivor. I want to ask you one question. What is it that you think, it's multifactorial, what is it that you think has brought you to a stage of surviving a disease that a lot of people don't survive? What is your inner instinct when it comes to your survival? What would you say it is? I'd like to hear that.
For me, I think even when I was diagnosed, I was very positive that this would pass on, that this was just a phase. Like it never occurred to me, that I might die or I might not survive. Knew that it's a difficult phase, but I think that's one thing that has really helped me to go past this. Of course, I made certain changes in terms of eating healthier, doing regular exercises, knowing the importance of life. I'm able to manage my stress in a much better way. Like I've stopped over-analyzing things. Like somebody has said something to you, start to cook stories, and start to think too much into it. I am above and beyond this now, thankfully. So for me, honestly, cancer has brought a lot of nice changes, a lot of blessings. But I think foremost has been in terms of having that faith and positivity that this will pass by, and also that I'm not going to have it again. I have that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's what I wanted to say, because I know the focus is on diet. But for me, even today as a nutritionist, no. Once you decide that you are going to heal, of course, there's destiny and faith. But once the human mind decides that, no, I am going to overcome this. Okay, I'm not going to Google and be induced with fear from people's opinions. But once the human mind decides, that is what I've learned from my practice. The healing will follow. Some people may still not recover, but most people, our survivors and our cases in remission for years. If you ask me, the one thing they did is their mindset. They decided that they were going to heal, and then they did everything that they had to, got the best doctors, the best treatment and everything else. So yes, it comes down to lifestyle. So if I have to leave this conversation today by saying that the lifestyle changes that we have to make is understand we are a body in an external environment. Pollution, all of this thing affects us. There's an external environment that we must all contribute towards building: cleaner air, cleaner water, cleaner food. And then there's our internal environment. We should never forget that cancer, the very fact that it's growing in a body or a breast or a prostate, it means that our body is creating a favorable atmosphere for the cancer to grow. So we can poison it with chemo, we can burn it with radiation, we can surgically remove it, we can use hormone treatment, but we also have one more treatment. How do I change that environment in my body so it is not favorable for the growth of a tumor or cancer cells? And that is where lifestyle comes in. What you eat, the way you move your body, the quality of your sleep, and your emotional wellness, and your mind and your heart. We put this together and we enable the infinite intelligence of the human body along with all our beautiful treatments that exist to heal us together. And that is my immense faith in the human body and everything that we have around us. These are the lifestyle changes that we have to make. They don't cost money. Remember, every lifestyle change I spoke about doesn't cost you money. Of course, money to buy food, but everything else is literally what we have to just do. Nature's given it to us free. We have to use it.
So Luke, thank you so much. We have many more questions. But I think the time is running short because Sister Shivani is actually going to talk what you have just now said. The young women, the stress, the emotions, you don't move, you don't eat well, everything bringing down to the stress and the emotion. And Sister Shivani is there to talk to us about all that. We have many more questions. I personally would have asked you because I don't sleep well, but I think we'll leave it for a later date. We'll have to have you again.
So doctor, let me interrupt you. It is with my pleasure. I'm motivated with the platform you have. With my pleasure, whenever you need more time from me, whether you need an hour or two, you have my free time to answer all of your questions with your group. It will be my pleasure. We will do it from our end, whatever question, because I don't want unanswered questions going because that makes me feel I'm inadequate. So let's organize another session. You have my time free, whether you need it for an hour.
There are lots of questions. You know, there are 1,000 people watching you talking about it. There are 460 participants with 2 people on each video and iPad and all that. So I think we'll move on to the next. Luke, if you can stay back, I can assure you Sister Shivani is just going to mesmerize you. Like you
There's no way I'm missing that. I'm here. I'm here.
Like you have mesmerized us, she's going to be a Sone Pe Suhaga. So Dipali, can you please introduce the next speaker?
Thank you so much,
Dr. Ma'am, 1 second. I just thought, Luke, your meeting all of us is a little incomplete. If you could just give a little touch up on the fasting and the intermittent fasting. There are a lot of questions of that coming in the chat, because you've really introduced that or maybe reminded all of us about that in our culture. But sometimes cancer and fasting, you know, so for cancer, we are told eat many times in the day, and then fasting seems contradictory. So that's sometimes a question of confusion for many of us.
Good.
Sure,
good.
sister.
Okay.
That's a brilliant question. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So see, fasting is therapeutic, but like everything, it has the right place and the right time to do it. You can't have a patient going through chemotherapy that's losing weight and tired and needs energy and food and put them into fasting. But we can use fasting when the patient is in remission. Because one problem is people are eating too much today at different timings. We have to honor the digestive system, give it rest. Remember we said healing happens in a state of complete rest? That is exactly what fasting is. But let me give you an example, sister, how our patients, even undergoing chemo right now, are fasting very beautifully. We follow a simple tradition where they have all their meals, they get all their calories, they finish an early dinner, preferably with sunset. Then they don't sleep for 2 to 3 hours because none of us should sleep with food in our stomach. So that's 3 hours. They sleep for 8 hours. So they wake up after about 8, they've already fasted for about 10 to 11 hours. They wake up, they finish with their toilet, their prayer, their meditation. They've got 12 hours of natural, beautiful fasting. But the dangers of fasting are when people overdo it. They read all of this stuff and they say, let me heal my body and let me do all of that stuff. No, it must be done the right way. Because when you're putting chemo in a body, you're putting it through a very, very toxic treatment. The body needs energy to overcome the side effects and to protect the other organs. So fasting is therapeutic. It exists in every country and religion. But today people have made it a fad. They do it for the wrong reasons. People use fasting to lose weight. You never do that. You do it so that you enable the intelligence of your body. You give your body a complete break when you're not eating so that it can boost your own immune system to heal. So there is the right way of doing it and the wrong way.
Hello. What about airport?
Thank you so much, Luke, for that. Thank you, Dr. Sareen, for moderating that session as well. Dr. Ramesh Sareen is a senior consultant with Indraprastha Apollo Hospital, Delhi for the last 25 years. And she carries with her more than 40 years of cancer practice with specialty in breast. Dr. Bhavna Vasti is the Chief Medical and Clinical Oncologist at Indian Spinal Injury Center, New Delhi. I request her to introduce Sister Shivani to all of us.
Thank you, Dipali. I hope I'm audible. It is my honor to introduce BK Sister Shivani. She practices and teaches Raj Yoga meditation. She is a household name nationally and internationally, a living example that spirituality is a way of life. She dispels the notion that spirituality is something one needs to practice only in the later years of one's life. And if you have been fortunate enough, like me, to have seen her and met her in person, you would agree that the strength that her aura has, it touches your heart, radiates instant peace and energy that cannot be described. Today, I await the magic of her thoughts through this electronic medium. BK Sister Shivani, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much. Bhavna. It's been over an hour, and we've been flooded with most profound, deep, life-changing education. And I've read all the comments that all of you have been putting, how you've loved every word that we have heard, and not just heard the words, but absorbed it, because it was being radiated to us with conviction and with experience. Experience not of one individual, but experience that that one individual has carried through with thousands and lakhs of people. So when information, education comes with conviction, then that's where it creates the energy in us to make that shift. So first and foremost, let's take 30 seconds silence and create one thought that out of all that valuable information we've just consumed, and we're going to make a lot of it a part of our life, but at least make one right now. Right now. That I understand the benefit of what I have absorbed. And today, it's a new beginning for me. This one change, one simple shift, and each one is going to choose their own shift. It's all very, very simple. But this one simple shift is going to be a part of my natural lifestyle from today. It's certain. I'm convinced it's right. People have created miracles with it. It's time for me to create my miracle. It's time for me to shift. And this one decision today, it's natural for me from now on. Om Shanti. It's not the first time most of us have heard Luke today. I think most of us have heard him before. But one is when we hear it on social media, but one is when we get an opportunity, even though it's still through the platform media, but when it's like this, it's more personal, it's one-on-one. And that's why it's all the more important that we make the most of what we have absorbed today. And like he so beautifully put it all together for us, that it's the mind and the body, that relationship. So the emotional wellness, and we've all been talking about it, and we're all aware of it. It's just that we understand it, we agree with it, and yet sometimes when we go back to our day-to-day living, we say, ye kaise ho sakta hai? Ye bahut mushkil hai. I cannot do this. Even let's take a simple thing what Neeti shared today. One very, very simple line which she said, what people say about me does not affect me anymore. Now, very, very simple. Okay, what people say about me does not affect me anymore. Public opinion. It could be an appreciation. It could be a critical opinion, but it's a public opinion. A public opinion could be about as simple as the dress you wear. Somebody could have an opinion about what you are wearing. Somebody could have an opinion about the phone you're using, the car you're driving. Somebody could have an opinion about the kind of work we are doing. And somebody could have an opinion about the person we are. It's their opinion. And if we just reflect, so much it matters to us what people say about us. And this is what makes us a seeker in life. We always want. And the deepest addiction, you know, it's easy to give up sugar. It's easy to give up dairy. It's easy to give up alcohol, non-veg, even though we think, oh, that's very difficult, but it's very easy. But there are some very, very deep-rooted addictions, which we're not even aware of. They are addictions. And one of them is this, what Neeti shared today. What people have to say about me is a very deep addiction. And in a very subtle manner, maybe we're not even aware of it, most of us seek validation. We seek validation. We seek appreciation, acceptance, acknowledgement. Even one line of somebody says, oh, aap bahut achhe ho. Oh, that can give me a nice high for the rest of the day. But if I get affected when someone says nice things about me, which means if that gives me a high, then when someone has a different opinion about me, then the low is certain. So the low is certain. So a very important spiritual principle is Ninda Stuti Ek Saman. Ninda Stuti Ek Saman, which means criticism or appreciation. We should be the same here. Same. Not even a slight shift, this side or that side. So it's like a pendulum. If the pendulum is in the center, it's there. But if it shifts even a little to this side, then it's definitely going to shift a little to that side. So if I get affected or I get a high with appreciation and acknowledgement, and then I will definitely get a low when I get a critical or a judgmental opinion. Now, since the time we have social media handles, so opinions are no more just from friends and parents and teachers and neighbors. Now opinion can be even from a stranger on my social media handle. I can put a post and someone has an opinion about it. And so now we are going through times when we are flooded with a lot of opinions about ourselves. Now, what do I do? Because simple, this is simple emotional well-being. Because log kya kahenge? इसीलिए दुनिया में कहते हैं सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग. सबसे बड़ा रोग कहते हैं इसको कि क्या कहेंगे लोग is the सबसे बड़ा रोग, which means something which can really disturb us here is what people have to say about me. It's been equated to a disease कि सबसे बड़ा रोग है ये. If we check our decisions in life, even as simple as the dress you choose from your wardrobe in the morning, you know, if we were not bothered about what people say about our clothes, we would have one single wardrobe with just few dresses over there. But all the other multiple choices there are because what will people say if I wear the same dress and go to the hospital, which I wore last week? So even for a simple decision like what dress to wear, it's actually got a background music is what will people say about my dress? Is it the right color according to the day? Like what people, it doesn't matter what I like. Though we believe we are doing what we like, we believe we are doing what we like, subconscious background music is, do people approve of my choices? And this public approval does not allow us to be comfortable with ourselves. So public approval got us to keep changing ourselves depending on what people have to say. It got us into comparing ourselves with people. This is where jealousy came in. This is where competition came in, because we always thought people say we are good if we are performing, if we are an achiever, if I have moved ahead of others, then people. So this all took me into a very, very different way of living. Very, very different way of living, where I could have actually been very comfortable and easy, live my life at my pace. I stopped doing it only because people's opinion mattered. People's opinion mattered. So even if it matters with your career, you are fine with working at a certain pace, but that might not take you where the other person is moving. And then people are going to say, "Arey, bas, आपने इतना ही किया, आपने इतनी जल्दी give up कर दिया, ऐसे कौन करता है? आपको तो और करना चाहिए था." And there it is. I change. I changed from what I believed was right. I changed because people around me were saying this is not right. And because we are carrying a belief system that what people say about me is the truth. ये कब शुरू हुआ? ये बचपन में शुरू हुआ था. Remember when we were 2, 3, 4 and guests came home and mummy papa would say, आप अपनी painting दिखाओ, आप poetry सुनाओ, आप dance करके दिखाओ, and we performed, which was good. It was very pure, very innocent. But that day the child got good boy, good girl, And everybody appreciated, everybody clapped, and the child realized, acha, when I perform, people like me. People say good boy, good girl. People didn't say good song, good dance, good painting. People said good boy, good girl. So good boy, good girl is equal to people saying I'm a good boy, good girl. And the sharir has grown older, but the soul inside is still that little child when I was 3 years old, still seeking for people to say good boy, good girl. And this does not allow us to be happy inside. This is a major cause of our stress and anxiety, because we're always running a race. And now we're growing up with the belief system, life is a competition. छोटे छोटे बच्चों को सिखा देते हैं, life is a competition. रुक के check नहीं करते, where is the competition? कौन सा competition? किसके साथ competition? नहीं, life is a competition. Most of us are from Delhi, I think, connected today. Just visualize you with your family in your car driving to Jaipur. Lovely highway, everything is perfect on the journey. You with your family in the car to your destination, which is Jaipur, enjoying your drive, listening to music, chatting with family, having breakfast in the car, good drive, good journey. Another family in their car enjoying their journey. Lekin on the way, we create a thought, race karte hain. There was no race, lekin humne ek thought create kar li, race karte hain. After that, the journey changes. उसके बाद सब कुछ बदल जाता है. Once we shift from this is a journey to this is a race, सब कुछ बदल जाता है उसके बाद. Now you'll say, shut off the music, don't talk, don't disturb me, मुझे इनके आगे जाना है. If your spouse says एक सैंडविच खा लो, he'll say तुमको सैंडविच की पड़ी हुई है, चुप कर जाओ तुम सारे, मुझे इनसे आगे जाना है. This is a journey on the road, same is the journey of life. अब हम अपनी अपनी कैपेसिटी से एक दूसरे से आगे जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Somewhere on the way, there is a red signal. And we're meant to stop at that red signal. Those are our values, principles, and ethics. Whether it is values and principles of how we should take care of ourselves, of our family, of our work, but they are the values, principles, जिसको हम कहते हैं मर्यादा. जीवन को जीने की मर्यादा. They are the values, principles of our life. But I think maybe just breaking this red signal is going to give me the opportunity to go ahead of that person. And I start breaking the red signals of my life. Whether it means Luke said, okay, walk 3 times a day or don't sit. But most of us will say, time nahi milta na, subah subah mujhe office jana hai, sham ko late aana hai. I don't get time to exercise. Kar bhi liya to subah thoda sa kar liya. Uske baad sara din time nahi milta. Because we started saying this, and everybody started saying this because hum sab race mein the, so almost all of us are not taking care of our health. Almost all of us are not taking care of that. Because everyone is in the race, and so everyone is making that red signal to go ahead of the other person. तो हमने अपनी जीवन की मर्यादाएं तोड़नी शुरू कर दी, चाहे वो सोने की मर्यादाएं. So beautifully shared. What time we sleep, how much we sleep. तो सोना भी एक मर्यादा है. Yog Nidra, which means even sleep is meditation. And that's why he shared that even during sleep, it's during sleep that the mind and the body will heal. He also shared that most of us, young girls also today in society, not sleeping right, not sleeping well. So humne wo sun liya. Ab, am I going to decide to sleep right from today? Am I going to decide to sleep right from today? So now the simple way to sleep right is to first slow down my mind before I go to sleep. What most of us are doing is very, very turbulent, overactive mind, tired body falls off to sleep. We say, I'm going to fall off to sleep. We don't have to fall off to sleep. We have to very, very, very gradually and gently take our mind to sleep. So like diet, even with sleep, most of us believe that we sleep right, but most of us don't sleep right. We sleep enough, which means we get our 6-7 hours of sleep, and yet we are sleep deprived. And iska simple sign hai. Look at the people on a flight, look in a train, look in a bus, any public transport. People can doze off to sleep at any time of the day. Thoda sa khali time mil jaye to yahan gir rahe hain, wahan gir rahe hain, so rahe hain. How can anybody go to sleep at 10 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, 3? Kaise so sakte hain? Because we are short of sleep. The only way to not sleep on a flight is you immediately switch on your phone and then you're doing this, then you will not go to sleep. Lekin agar aapne phone band kar diya and aap khali baith gaye, That's it. It just requires few. And that's a sign I am sleep deprived. But how can I be sleep deprived? I sleep enough every day. I don't sleep right because my mind is very, very overactive till the last moment when I go off to sleep. And so at least 2 hours. अब इसको accept करना, experiment करना. At least 2 hours before sleeping, we should disconnect from work communication. That's why we were emotionally healthier when we did not have our gadgets. फिर लोग आजकल कहते हैं phone is the cause of our stress. Phone is not the cause of our stress. Phone has made life very, very comfortable. लेकिन हम phone को use कैसे करते हैं can become the cause of my stress. So if I remain connected with my work communication till I go to sleep, then my mind is overactive. If you check your emails of work just before going to sleep or your messages, then the body will sleep after that. The mind has so much to think about. अगर रात को नींद खुल गई, मतलब 2-3 बजे अगर नींद खुल गई, हम कहते हैं फिर से एक बार देख लेते हैं, बीच में कोई मैसेज या ईमेल तो नहीं आया था, तो जो थोड़े बहुत चांसेस है कि बाकी नींद ठीक हो जाती, उसको भी खराब कर देते हैं क्योंकि हम उतने में भी अपने मैसेजेस और ईमेल्स देख लेते हैं. सो वेरी सिंपल थिंग्स. कितनी सिंपल है अच्छा सोना. आज जब हमें समझ में आया है that our healing happens in our sleep, so we need to slow down our mind. We are in the beta plus stage of the mind during the day. Now the mind has to go from beta plus to beta to alpha to theta to delta. इतना तक जाना है उसने, लेकिन हम beta plus stage में ही सो जाते हैं. And then 2 things. Either we dream too much because we are not going to the theta delta stage. We are remaining in that alpha theta stage. तो हमें सपने बहुत आते हैं. फिर सपने भी बहुत अच्छे नहीं आते हैं क्योंकि सोने से पहले बड़ी डरावनी चीजें अंदर भर ली थी. कोई क्राइम शो देख लिया था, कोई सीरियल देख लिया था जिसमें किसी ने किसी को धोखा दे दिया, किसी ने किसी को घर से निकाल दिया, एंड और कुछ नहीं तो न्यूज डिबेट सुन ली थी. अब इसके बाद नींद कैसे आ सकती है किसी को अच्छी? शरीर थका हुआ होता है तो नींद आती है. The mind does not get to sleep only because of our consumption of content and work communication. So it's not just content, but it's also work communication. At least 2 hours before sleep, we should start disconnecting from work. We are not supposed to be at work at 10 o'clock in the night, except for doctors. Apart from that, we are not supposed to be at work at 10 o'clock in the night. But phone है, तो हम कभी भी किसी को phone कर देते हैं, email कर देते हैं, WhatsApp कर देते हैं, फिर वो blue tick आ जाता है, फिर सोचते हैं कि जवाब क्यों नहीं दिया. फिर अगर सामने वाले ने जवाब नहीं दिया तो वैसे ही नहीं नींद आती कि उसने मेरा जवाब क्यों नहीं दिया. पढ़ लिया फिर भी जवाब नहीं दिया. छोटी छोटी चीजों को हम कितना complicated कर देते हैं. So give ourselves the permission to sleep well and give other people the permission to sleep well. So as an organization, we should have a culture that we will not call up, write or email to each other after a cutoff time of let's say 8 or 9. After that, people are supposed to be with themselves, with their family, not just physically, but also in the mind. And we need to slow down our mind before we sleep. So at least last 1 hour, no Netflix, no social media, no television, either listening to music, listening to bhajan, spiritual songs, any hobby which has a soothing effect on the mind, being with family, but no problem discussion or argument. Cannot have a problem discussion or argument just before going to sleep. शायद हमें नींद आ जाएगी लेकिन उनको नींद नहीं आएगी. And now if we connect this, what we have shared today, that the sleep is equal to health, तो फिर अपनी और अपनी family का हम कितना ध्यान रखेंगे? So we need to sleep right. And at least 15 minutes before sleeping, we need to have the last layer of information on the mind as very pure content. Last layer of information. Because what will be the last layer of information on the mind will get processed by the subconscious mind during the next 6-7 hours. And इसीलिए जो हमारी last thought होती है, वो हमारी सुबह की thought होती है. So if I want to create healing, if my last thought before sleeping is, my body is perfect and healthy and will always be. My mind is happy and stable and will always be. Then that is what will get processed during the next 6 hours. And that's the vibration that will radiate to the body. My body is perfect and healthy and will always be. अब अगर इसका opposite कर दिया, हाय ये दुख रहा है, हाय ये दर्द हो रहा है, ये दर्द जाता ही नहीं है, and I go off to sleep. Then I'm going to sleep with my last thought of aches, pains, disease, acidity. या even अगर ये last thought create कर ले, हाय आज मैंने शाम को पकोड़े खा लिए, खाने तो चाहिए नहीं थे, गलत चीज खा ली, and अब सो गए. So last layer of information अगर गलत हो गई, last thought अगर गलत हो गई, then that thought is not one thought, it is 6 hours of processing of information. So the last layer of information before we sleep and the first layer of information when we wake up, immense effect on our emotional well-being. लेकिन दिन में जो हो जाता है, हम रात को वही सोचते सोचते सो जाते हैं. आज उन्होंने ऐसा बोल दिया, आज उसने ऐसा कर दिया, कितनी भी मेहनत करो, कोई मुझसे प्यार नहीं करता है, कोई मुझे रिस्पेक्ट. Now if you go to sleep with this kind of a conversation with the self, then it's not just few thoughts, it's emotional wounds by the time we wake up in the morning, because now it's gone deep. And isliye, yesterday I was on a webinar and one brother very sweetly shared, he said 30 or 40 years back someone said something to me. I'm still not being able to forget it. He insulted me. I said, how long back was that? He said, I think 30. He didn't remember whether it was 30 or 40, but he remembered what they had said. So why does it, and kya kiya tha unhone? Unhone kuch keh diya tha. Why did it become so chronic? Because that night when it had happened, we went to sleep with it. And once we went to sleep with it, it became a chronic wound and we did nothing to heal it. So just before going to sleep, have a good session with yourself of counseling. उन्होंने बोल दिया, उनका मूड खराब होगा, उनके संस्कार ठीक नहीं होंगे उस टाइम, कुछ भी होगा वो उनका था. It was their opinion. I will check myself. I know myself. I'll work on myself tomorrow. Even if I have to take their feedback, I'll take their feedback. But the energy of criticism was theirs. The feedback was for me. Criticism was their sanskar. अपने आप को counsel करके सोना चाहिए. इसीलिए बचपन से सिखाया जाता था, अगर झगड़ा हुआ है तो झगड़े के साथ सोना नहीं है, झगड़े को सुलझा कर सोना है. अब वन इज दूसरों के साथ झगड़ा, बट वन इज जो अपने अंदर ही झगड़ा चलता रहता है, यहाँ पर not creating the right thoughts. So sleeping well means the mind has to be very peaceful before sleeping. Very, very peaceful before sleeping. Address any issue that is on the mind. And that's why we were taught write a letter, write a journal, which means just bring it out. Don't go to sleep with it. Bring it out. But wo bhi agar nahi ho raha, just talk to yourself. And इसीलिए meditation just before sleeping or absorbing pure content at least for 15 minutes, ताकि कुछ बहुत अच्छा healthy mind पर जाएगा सोने से पहले, नींद बहुत अच्छी आएगी. Then it's not the number of hours, it's the quality of the sleep, which will be the energizing. And most important, those vibrations will radiate to every cell of our body, every organ of our body for 6 hours. So ध्यान रखें, मेरी आखिरी चीज मेरी बॉडी को 6 घंटा मिलने वाले है. अब हम क्या देख कर सोएंगे? News channels, highest TRP. First thing in the morning, last thing in the night. This is their highest TRP. So these are also our lifestyle changes. कि हम रात को चिल्लाना, चीखना, criticize करना, लोगों को नीचे खींचना. We think it's about them. It's not about them. Now they are on my mind. That emotion is on my mind. So sleeping right and waking up right. Which means if my last thought is a positive thought, a positive, pure, powerful affirmation, then that will be my first thought when I wake up. It'll always happen like that. It'll be my first thought. And even if it's not, let's make gratitude our first. Gratitude should be our first thought in the morning. So teach your mind to say thank you in the morning. शुरू में थोड़े दिन याद रखना पड़ेगा, थैंक यू बोलो, जैसे बच्चों को बोलते हैं ना, थैंक यू बोलो, थैंक यू बोलो, थैंक यू बोलो. सो वी हैव टू टीच आवर माइंड, थैंक यू बोलो, थैंक यू बोलो, थैंक यू बोलो. क्योंकि आजकल ये शिकायत बहुत करता है, हमारा मन बहुत कंप्लेन करता है आजकल, ये ठीक नहीं है, ये ठीक नहीं है, ये ठीक नहीं है, सरकार ठीक नहीं है, पुलिस ठीक नहीं है, हवा ठीक नहीं है, पानी ठीक नहीं है, और कुछ नहीं तो मेरा शरीर ठीक नहीं है. We have so much to complain about every day. So I need to tune in the frequency of my mind to gratitude in the morning. So make it like a prayer for yourself, that my first thought is gratitude to the higher power. My second thought is gratitude to my mind and body for being healthy. ये रोज हेल्दी रहता है, हम इसको थैंक यू नहीं बोलते, लेकिन थोड़ा सा दर्द होता है, हाय मेरे को दर्द हो गया, हाय मेरे को दर्द हो गया, थोड़ा सा दर्द हुआ कंप्लेन करेंगे, रोज ठीक है उसको थैंक यू नहीं बोलते हैं. So every day thank you to mind and body, thank you to people. This is all going on in the mind. We don't have to go up to them and say thank you to them. Thank you to people we work with. Thank you to nature. Prakriti, our relationship with nature and Prakriti. रोज नलके में पानी आता है, हम थैंक यू नहीं बोलते, लेकिन एक दिन पानी नहीं आया, हाय पानी नहीं आया, ऐसे कैसे पानी नहीं आया. So you know, we choose to complain, but we don't create gratitude. So let's have our first few thoughts of gratitude, then consciously, still sitting in bed, not to get out of bed, then next set of thoughts of our pure, powerful affirmations for the mind and body. So radiating healing energy, my body is perfect and healthy and will always be. If I'm going through an ailment, I will still say my body is perfect and healthy and will always be. Never say I have cancer. Never say I have blood pressure, I have diabetes. The I is here. The I is here. This is our body, this is our costume, this is a dress. It's like if my sari is torn, I have to say my sari is torn. I can't say I am torn. I am not torn. My sari is torn. We say I am diabetic, I am hypertensive, I am cancer. I nahi. I am pure, I am powerful, I am peaceful, I am happy. मेरी body को थोड़ा बहुत कुछ है, वो भी perfect हो जाएगा. The I should never have a negative energy word with it. The I should never. So I am and fill in the blank will always have to be a high vibrational word. I am this and my body is perfect and healthy. If it's a particular organ, then specifically for that organ, I need to say that particular organ is perfect and healthy. और वो जो चीज आई थी, वो तो खत्म हो गई है, बिल्कुल खत्म हो गई है. So my first few thoughts and last thoughts are very, very important. So release whatever happens during the day. किसी ने कुछ कह भी दिया, रात को नींद में नहीं साथ में जाना चाहिए, नहीं तो 30 साल के बाद भी याद रहेगा. And if you think, we remember a lot of things. हम कहते हैं उस दिन वो वाली ड्रेस पहनी थी, उस कॉर्नर में खड़े थे और उन्होंने ऐसे बोला था, शादी वाले दिन उन्होंने ऐसे बोला था, उस दिन उनकी मम्मी ने, हमको कुछ भी नहीं भूलता. आज सुबह नाश्ते में क्या खाया था, 2 मिनट लगता है याद करने में, क्या खाया था, अच्छा हाँ, लेकिन उन्होंने उस दिन क्या बोला था, बिकॉज उस दिन जब उन्होंने बोला था, आई गेव एन इंस्ट्रक्शन टू माई माइंड एंड आई सेड ये बात मैंने कभी नहीं भूलनी. तो माइंड इतना आज्ञाकारी है. Our mind is the most आज्ञाकारी, obedient. वो कहते हैं कभी नहीं भूलनी ना, बिल्कुल नहीं भूलेंगे. लेकिन जब सुबह ब्रेकफास्ट खाया था, हमने नहीं बोला कि ये नहीं भूलना है, तो वो भूल जाता है. So I need to change the way I talk to myself. And of course, like we're taking care of our diet today, we will also take care of our emotional diet. First step to healing, restrict consumption of content. इसको हम जितनी बार दोहराएं उतना कम है, क्योंकि अभी भी हम बहुत ज्यादा कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं. And that's why if you go 2 decades, 3 decades back, we were not talking so much about lifestyle disease. So सबसे ज्यादा चीज कौन सी बड़ी है 20 years में? Content. If Apollo Hospital or if doctors create a graph, statistics, content versus mind and body health, there's going to come a direct connection. Direct connection between content, emotional, mental and physical health. तो उसका अगर हम ध्यान रख लें तो हमारी हीलिंग बहुत इजी होने लग जाएगी, क्योंकि जब यहाँ अच्छी चीजें जाएंगी, फिर यहाँ अच्छी चीजें क्रिएट होंगी, फिर यहाँ अच्छी चीजें रेडिएट होंगी, तो हेल्थ अपने आप बननी शुरू हो जाएगी. And I think like Luke shared today, let's experiment with except for if we get that perfect milk and no sugar. ये सब सुनने में बहुत मुश्किल लगता है शुरू में, लेकिन करने में सबसे easy है. And अगर कुछ भी नहीं है, we should just do a 3 months experiment. Do a 3 months experiment, see how I feel, and then make it for myself. We keep asking a lot of people. We spend months in asking people. उससे अच्छा 2 महीने अपना ही experiment करके देख लेते हैं कि if I leave this, how does my mind and body feel? Because each one is unique. So I'll have to do my experiment to see how it works for me. So thank you so much.
Sister Shivani, for those amazing insights and enlightening words. Your nuggets of information will prove valuable for everybody here. Changes in lifestyle, sleep and mindset will go a long way to healthy and happy living. I request Sushmita Sen Gupta, an independent filmmaker and communications professional, to give the vote of thanks, please.
Dipali, Sushmita just called to say that her connection has gone off. So whatever I can gather in my vote of thanks, she asked me to do it for her. So first and foremost, this was one of the best sessions that we have ever had. So many screens, so many people, so much enlightenment. And I think we can all put our virtual hands together for this particular session. Thank you everybody for this. First and foremost, my greatest thanks to Brahmakumari Sister Shivani, who's always been such a great motivator, such a great, every time I hear you, sister, I'm actually emotionally charged, moved. I go back thinking I'm going to be a better person, but I end up being the same. I still try my best, and I hope I continue to do that. Luke, you were amazing, just amazing, Luke. It was fantastic to hear about all the factors which cause cancer: acidity, constipation, a sedentary lifestyle, sleep deprivation, emotional disturbances. It's taught us a lot. And I think there'll be lots and lots of questions still coming forward for you, because diet is one big thing, and you know, the holistic approach, as Sister Shivani and you both have brought in, has been fantastic. My thanks to the CEO of Apollo Hospitals, Mr. Shiv Kumar, for being present, and Apollo for always supporting us. My gratitude to both Lalita and Subra, who have been great friends, known them for donkey's years, and who've always come forward in every situation whenever they're just a call away. And they have been there, humility thy name, and always been around for all of us. Thank you to Mr. Abhishek Singh for being present with us. Arogya Setu, I saw you put it as teamwork, but there's always somebody who's leading that team, and that lead person is always present there. Thank you to Colonel Pant for being present right from the mountains, motivating us for being better and better, and trying to build more out of our forum for breast protection. Ma'am, Dr. Serene, that dynamic powerhouse, what do I say about you? I think no words can equal what you are, not only as a motivator, not only as a surgeon, but by drawing new things out of the hat, even when everybody's chips are down. Madam, thank you so much for being what you are. Thank you for all the members. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all members of the forum. Dipali, for being the master of ceremonies. Amazing work, just seamlessly going through. Karuna, Anjali, Neeti, and Sangeeta for all being present. Bhavna, you're always amazing. Thanks all of you for being around. My heartfelt thanks and great gratitude to the team of Apollo Hospitals who's helped us put this together. They've helped us in every which way, looking after the IT, the marketing, and so on and so forth. I think Dr. Serene gives them one phone call and says, "Ye karna padega," and everything has to happen. So thank you for all. Thank you to all the survivors. Thank you, Parag, for helping us put this together, Dr. Parag. And thank you to each and every one of you who was part of this session. Thank you to my Rotarian friends and my classmates who are on this session. Thank you for being there. If I have missed anyone other than my family, friends, and all your family and friends, please do excuse me. Ma'am, is there anyone else I need to thank?
Thank you so much. Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you once again. Dipali?
So with this, we're going to close the session. Thank you so much.